Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon, I think, to some of you joining as well. Welcome to our webinar for today. Give folks time to filter in. It's good to see everyone. Today, we are revisiting PSC's Packaging Pledge Program 3 years after its launch, which is really exciting. Good morning, everyone. In this webinar, we will have panelists from companies who signed the packaging pledge that will share some insights on their packaging journeys, including successes and challenges on their way to recyclable, refillable, or compostable packaging. This session will offer behind the scenes looks at what goes into making packaging decisions and why that's complex and challenging, especially within the pet industry. Quick shout out to our webinar sponsors. Thank you to WPA, World Pet Association, who has sponsored the entire 2025 webinar series. And we also have Alstrom, who is sponsoring today's webinar, and we will hear from them a little bit more later. For now, let's dive right in. Welcome to those of you who have just joined. We'll have just a brief agenda for today. We'll go through some announcements. We will hear from Alstrom, our webinar sponsor. I'll do some packaging panelist intros. We'll have a discussion, and of course, there will be time for Q&A at the end. For those who've joined, I would love to start us off with a quick poll. I'm sure we will be hearing, or a few of you other brands that have attended who are also working on packaging goals, packaging challenges, packaging legislation. We'd love to see how many of you have goals, especially related to recyclable, compostable, and refillable packaging. Seems like the vast majority. And I think I would expect that. There's a lot going on in the packaging space right now. Great. It looks like a lot of us are in the same boat. So we have goals for packaging, probably a lot of recyclability. Yeah, almost 90% of you. That's great. You know, you really can't improve what you don't measure. So it's great to have goals. It's great to be getting packaging data in. And speaking of packaging and sustainability, if you are new to the Pet Sustainability Coalition, welcome. I'm sure some of you are very familiar. My name's Allison Burdick, and I am a sustainability analyst here at PSC. We are an industry nonprofit. We drive sustainable impact in the pet industry and support companies truly across the entire supply chain with their sustainability goals. Our members are global, and we're very glad to see many of you here today. Just a little bit more about PSC and how we approach our sustainability work. We do provide individual company support on your sustainability goals, as well as support tackling those large challenges that may be too big for one company to do on their own. And our work is really broken out into 3 pillars, and that includes ingredients, packaging, which is very relevant for today, and then responsible business practices. Few more announcements. So we are already at the end of 2025. We are in Q4. We'd love to take a look ahead at what's upcoming for webinars and make sure you have these on your calendar. So today we are covering packaging with our packaging pledge panel. November 4th, we'll be looking at sustainable finances with Walden Bank and Polkadog. And then at the end of November, right before Thanksgiving, we Would love to have you come learn more about regenerative agriculture with Anchor Ingredients. So a lot to come over the next month or so, finishing 2025 strong. And then some final announcements. The Pet Summit is back in 2026. The Pet Summit is an industry education and networking event with different tracks, and pet sustainability is one of them, led by PSC. This event is during the same week as Global Pet Expo, and registration is currently open. For PSC members only, you do get 15% off Pet Summit tickets. So contact info@petsustainability.org for more information. We will be doing a full day of content on Tuesday of that week. And we are also looking for speakers for the Pet Summit Sustainability track. So if you are interested, applications are open. Speakers do get free admission to the Pet Summit. So if you're interested, please reach out. We would love to have you. And our second big fun announcement is that now through the end of the year, December 31st, we are running a first-time PSC member discount. So if you have been thinking about joining, now is the perfect time. We'll give you someone to reach out to in our chat, Chloe DeVita, our Director of Growth, for more information about joining PSC. Thanks, Chloe. And then just some quick Zoom housekeeping. I know a lot of you are familiar, but please interact with us during this conversation in the chat. Let us know where you're joining from, and that's where we'll be sharing important links and information. The react button, if you hear something you found insightful or interesting, you can use these reactions. And if you do have a question to ask the panel, please submit those in the Q&A feature, and we will save time near the end for some questions. And with that ends our PSC announcements. I'd like to pass it over to Amber Roman from Alstrom for a message.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amber Roman, and I'm very pleased to be here on behalf of Alstrom. First, I'd like to thank the Pet Sustainability Coalition for putting this important conversation together and for allowing us to support today's webinar as a sponsor. At Alstrom, our purpose is to purify and protect with every fiber for a sustainable world. One of the ways that we bring that purpose to life is through our paw print platform, which is dedicated to offering sustainable packaging for the pet food industry. As we all know, pet parents want more than just safe and nutritious food for their pet. They're also looking for packaging that protects freshness and quality, but does so with a lighter environmental footprint. With Paw Print, we've developed a fiber-based, recycle-ready packaging solutions designed specifically for the unique challenges that pet food brings. These solutions can help to reduce or even eliminate plastics, improve recyclability, and meet the same high-performance standards that brands and consumers expect. With over 170 years of fiber innovation, Alstrom partners with pet food companies around the world to help them make the shift toward forward-thinking, responsible packaging. We're proud to be a part of today's discussion, and we're looking forward to hearing the insights and perspectives that will help us all to continue to advance sustainability in the pet food industry. We believe that you can love your pet and the planet. Thank you again for this opportunity, and thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Amber, for kicking off the packaging discussion. We're so glad to have Alstrom as a PSC member and providing innovative solutions. Today, we will be talking about PSC's Packaging Pledge program. A lot of P's in there. This program first began in 2022. with 5 signatories and our original donors to get the program started. So thank you to everyone who has supported this program over the past 3 years. It's really been such a learning opportunity, and a lot of impact has been made. Some other signatories have joined in subsequent years, and here we are 3 years later with representatives from 3 of those companies. Just to provide a little bit of background on the packaging pledge, since it has been a few years, let's rewind a little bit. It was originally launched at Super Zoo 2022, and this program was developed to support pet companies in transitioning toward recyclable, refillable, and/or compostable packaging by 2025. We are in the final few months of that now. When we launched this pledge, PSC, we really championed monomaterial flexible plastics, making those recyclable and working with partners within the industry. So a big part of this program was sharing resources and collaboration within the industry, which are really critical elements to solving complex packaging challenges. And the packaging landscape has really changed a lot since 2022. I don't think I need to tell this audience that, but one thing that hasn't is that pet product packaging is still found in most US households, and customers do care about the impact of that packaging. Some recent stats from a McKinsey & Company study found that at least 40% of consumers in all countries in a 2023 survey would pay more for sustainable packaging, and a product's recyclability is the most important characteristic for US consumers when considering the sustainability of packaging. So we are hearing the consumers, companies and brands have their packaging goals, and we are ready to find those solutions. But pet food packaging is challenging. The panelists will allude to that as well. We ask our packaging to do a lot for us. Long shelf lives, large volumes, protect, maintain freshness, maybe resealable, but it also has to look good and be more sustainable. So that includes recyclable, refillable, and compostable. So let's meet some of these companies from the brand perspective wanting to tackle the challenges of sustainable packaging in the pet industry. First, I'd like to introduce Hannah Hughes, Director of Innovation and Sustainability at Farah Pets. Farah is a veterinarian-founded brand creating pet supplements made with science-backed ingredients. The team at Farah is actively taking steps to ensure they operate in alignment with a healthier planet and future for our pets. In addition to the PSC packaging pledge, Farah Pets is now certified plastic neutral with PSC partner Repurpose Global. Thank you, Hannah. And next we have Christine Mallier, Sustainability Manager at Petcurean. Petcurean formulates and makes nutritionally superior premium quality recipes for pets with all sorts of different tastes, dietary needs, and preferences. Petcurean is committed to being a leader in sustainability and protecting pets, people, and our planet. Once Petcurean has completed their packaging pledge goal and made the switch to recyclable packaging, they'll be diverting 315,000 kilograms of packaging from landfills annually. And lastly, we have Joy Stevenson, the ESG Impact Manager at MPM Products, a certified B Corp behind the natural pet food brands Applause, Encore, Reveal, and Nature's Calling. Guided by its mission to enrich the lives of pets and their owners through visibly better pet food, MPM is taking meaningful steps to reduce its environmental footprint, from joining PSC's packaging pledge program and transitioning to recycle-ready packaging to optimizing stock holdings and monitoring carbon emissions across all scopes. We will have all of our panelists join us on camera to start answering some questions and begin this conversation about packaging. And with that, we will bring everyone. Hello. Okay, how's everyone feeling? Ready to answer some questions about 3 years of packaging work?
Yes.
You bet. Great. And as I mentioned earlier, sustainable packaging and particularly the recyclability of packaging are very important to consumers. I think that's held true for years now. Joy, I'd like to start with MPM. How have your consumers and or any stakeholders in general reacted to your packaging pledge and packaging goals?
We've had really strong support from our retailers and our investors, and especially our board. Our board have backed the packaging pledge by assigning dedicated R&D budget, and that's purely used for that investigation piece around recycle-ready pouches. They've given us some extra R&D for robust testing across all of our substrates, and we see that as a real competitive advantage for us, really. It builds the shopper confidence, it strengthens our supply chain, and it gives us our sales team a real story to tell when they go to those range review windows with our customers. And also, I think because of the fact that we are a B2B business, we don't always get direct shopper feedback ourselves. So we rely on retailers and distributors to share those insights. We've been at this game for 23 years, and we're really good at building strong relationships with those types of customers and distributors. And so that collaboration piece is really important. It drives the changes, clear instructions on pack, easier to recycle packaging. I think the only challenge that remains, and I think this is true for all these brands, is that continued piece of sensitivity around the premium costs of sustainable packaging.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's such an important piece to bring in the retailers who are interacting with consumers so regularly and hearing that feedback. Christine, what about at Petcurean? How have the reactions been?
Honestly, Allison, everyone's been thrilled. Our customers, our consumers, our employees. Even before we made the commitment to sign the pledge, we had consumers like a couple of years before that calling in and asking our customer service team, when are you guys going to switch your packaging to recyclable? You know, we know that sustainability is a core value of our consumers, and this was something that was so important to them. And so it was something that we were already thinking about before the pledge even came up. And I know from speaking with our HR department, it was always a common question in every interview they were actually conducting with prospective employees. Like, do you guys have recyclable packaging? Oh, you don't? Why not? When are you going to? And now, since we've made that switch, like I said, we get customers commenting in our social media that they're so happy. And now when I ask new employees, you know, why they chose to come to Petcurean, one of the common reasons that, you know, everybody cites is the sustainability commitments that we've made, and the achievements that we've had in recent years. So yeah, it's been really, really fantastic. Everyone's been thrilled.
Love hearing that. And I think that's something that doesn't get brought up too often is sustainability and working towards more sustainable products as an employee retention tool.
Absolutely.
And I think maybe another webinar, another day of talking through why sustainability is so important to business.
Yeah.
And lastly, Hannah, how has the response been from Fera Pets consumers?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have had a really similar experience to both Christine and Joy. Both our customers, as well as our internal and external stakeholders, have all reacted overwhelmingly positive. I think for consumers, packaging and recyclability is one of the easier sustainability stories to tell. Packaging is tangible. Customers really, they can hold it, they can see it, they can play a part in that recyclability journey. So I think it's really important for customers, and they really connect with it really well. Internal stakeholders as well have been really, really supportive. I think sometimes there is a need to make a business case for going after sustainable and recyclable packaging, because as we'll talk about later, it's not always the easiest or maybe the most cost-effective choice. But I think it's a really easy business case to make. So once you're able to kind of get data in front of those decision makers, the sign off is usually pretty easy.
That's such a good point. There's a lot of things that go into making a sustainable product, but consumers are left holding that packaging And that's very tangible to them, and they are responsible for figuring out what to do with it. Let's dive into the biggest question perhaps for this group. What were the biggest challenges when looking to make changes to your packaging? What elements of your packaging portfolio were especially challenging? And I'd love to start with you and Farah Pets as a supplement brand. I do think you use some different primary forms of packaging, more rigid than a lot of pet foods.
Definitely. I think, no surprise to anybody, I think cost is always a big challenge. The more sustainable option is not always the most cost-effective option. So building that into budget and, into new product development processes is always kind of an uphill battle. And then on that same piece, availability is not always the same as like your standard, maybe less sustainable packaging. So you need to build in extra timelines for extended lead times, shipping times, and things like that that come along with the type of packaging that is maybe less readily available. And yes, we do use a lot of rigid packaging. We do a little bit of flexibles, but I think less so than some of the other larger food brands. And that, I think, provides a unique challenge. Maintaining product stability and product integrity is obviously important for all of us. And so choosing the type of packaging that kind of checks all of the boxes. So A, is it sustainable? B, is it going to maintain stability and shelf life? C, is it going to survive, shipping and storage conditions? Is it going to look good on a digital shelf, a retail shelf? And so being able to check every single one of those boxes can be very challenging. And at the end of the day, sustainability is very, very important, but making sure that the product that's inside that packaging arrives to the customer in the condition intended really is number one. So that, I think, has been one of our biggest challenges.
Yeah, we've seen that over and over again. Product quality is always the most important thing to the consumer. And again, we're asking our packaging to do 15 different things really well. It all adds to the challenge. Joy, what about MPM? I know you have a wide range of products and challenges as well.
Like everyone else, we definitely have had some big challenges along the way. So technically, I think the biggest challenge for us is achieving our required retort shelf life and getting the right temperatures and the right timings, especially as we test those mono substrate materials without compromising the palatability of it and without compromising the product stability of it. That's been a huge focus for us in the last 18 months across the innovation team, technical teams and suppliers. I think commercially it's been about securing the board approval for the R&D spend, and also as a sustainability manager, not being offended by the fact that you're not getting as much as a pot as everyone else, because there's so many business decisions that have to happen, and it's just about keep plugging that away. So and it's all about bringing all those departments along on the journey with you, like Christine said, when everyone's really inspired about what you're doing. And then of course, not offending the brand teams, making those little tweaks where they go, oh, you've taken the ink away, what's it going to look like on the shelf, or what's going to look like digitally. They're all really hard decisions to make. And then I suppose from a regs point of view, wow, the complexity of the EPRs at the minute, they're popping up like whack-a-mole, they're everywhere. And it's led to like a fragmented like labeling in terms of the disposal rules across the markets. You're trying to balance safety, cost, value chain needs, and sometimes you end up duplicating artworks because, like Christina knows, we did the whole Canadian upload, and on the cusp of hitting print, regulations change and you end up duplicating artworks, and then everyone's doubling their workload. So it really is hard. And I think the final one for us is, not only is the EPR regulations complicated, but also we're relying on our retailers to actually really deep dive in and look at, what is it that they want to be on the shelf. There's so many variations around pack sizes and DIMs. But we're seeing some of that now move towards alignment. Maybe it's because of the EPR regulations, so we're grateful for that in that way. But there's still a long way to go, and it continues to add complexity, definitely in terms of like packaging decisions.
that's, you know, a key change from 2022 to now that we didn't even address, is that at least in the US now we have EPR laws that are being implemented. And of course, that's going to change a lot. Also, hopefully provide some clarity and direction, but especially on the journey to recyclable and what does that mean to different states? Certainly just adds another challenge, but we like challenges. And Christine, I know you're always up for a challenge too.
Yeah, we certainly are. We definitely faced a lot of the challenges that that Joy and Hannah faced, you know, certainly around budget and like packaging testing. You know, we had to work with our manufacturing partners because it was, you know, it was new packaging for them. And so like even little things like getting the sealing temperature right on the bag lines, because, you know, we ran a first test batch and then all of a sudden, you know, the bags are being thrown on the pallets and the seams are splitting at the sides. You know, so there was, you know, a lot of testing and shipping durability and shelf life testing that had to be done. And because as Hannah mentioned, at the end of the day, we weren't going to switch unless we could ensure that the product inside was going to be the premium product that our customers have come to expect. You know, when they receive it either, you know, at the shelf or through e-shipping. But I think one of the additional challenges, a big challenge that we faced was even just managing expectations around timelines. You know, you go out there and you say, we've made this commitment to switch to our packaging, and customers and consumers kind of expect that, you know, they're going to be in the pet store on Friday and see the old packaging and walk in on Monday and wow, all these new bags are going to be there in recyclable packaging. Well, it's just not the reality, right? The switch takes time, and it takes a lot of time. And I think from start to finish, from the time that we signed the packaging pledge to the time that the first bag rolled off the line, that was kind of like the final, this is the version that we're going with, it was about 14, 15 months. And also, we couldn't just go ahead and, as much as we would have liked to, go ahead and switch all of the bags at the same time. We had a huge inventory of existing bags already on hand. And it just would not be sustainable to switch everything right away and send all of that existing on-hand inventory of bags to send that to the landfill. And so we made the decision to, you know, switch things gradually as the bags came up for a reorder. Then we would switch to recyclable. And any, of course, any new products that were released brand new that we didn't already have inventory for, those were released in recyclable bags. And so that managing that timeline, it was a bit of a challenge. And once you gave customers and employees the rationale, then they understood, but there was still kind of that lingering, yeah, but why can't it happen faster? So that was a bit of a challenge. And one of the things also that Joy alluded to, we've got plastic retort pouches for our wet food, and we looked high and low, and I can't tell you how many times how many different packaging partners we talked to, and we worked with PSC to try endlessly. We looked all over the world to try and find retort pouches that were recyclable in North America, which is like one of our largest markets. And we found like niche products here and there that were recyclable in like Australia. But we don't have the recycling facilities for that particular product here in North America. The infrastructure just isn't that mature yet. And so that was a really frustrating exercise. And I know it was for Joy too. We had conversations about that. That's one of the nice things about being a PSC member. Even though we're competitors, everybody works together on initiatives of things like this and tried to share information. So that was really frustrating not to have that packaging available to make that switch, because the desire is so strong, but we just haven't been able to make that change yet.
And that's something I learned more about during this process too, is the timeline for packaging is much longer than someone who's not familiar with that work would assume. So the timelines is certainly a challenging piece that I'm glad you brought up. And it's good to know that even though these challenges are happening, you're not the only one. And we're certainly learning that with EPR laws too, which will hopefully address some of the infrastructure issues we do have in North America. However, how far off is that is a big question as well. I know we've addressed challenges, and I think that's something we can always dive deeper into, but I also want to give each of you the time and the space to talk about what you're most proud of that you've accomplished during the last few years, and take the time to celebrate together as well. Christine, I know we just heard about the challenges, but I'd love to see the flip side of what are you most proud of?
I think in a nutshell, Allison, I think one of the things that we're proud of so many things along the way, but I think really one of the things I'm most proud of is our company's commitment to just commit to the packaging pledge, even though we didn't have a clear roadmap of how we were going to fulfill it. We had no bulletproof plan. People internally were like, "You're signing this? We don't even know how we're going to get there." But the desire to do the right thing, it wasn't just about meeting a target. It was really about doing the right thing for our company, for our consumers, for our pets, and for our planet. And that was ultimately the thing that I was able to get the buy-in for. It actually was very easy to get buy-in and approval to put my signature on there. And so I think just that initial leap of faith is something that I'm super, super proud of for everyone at Petcurean. Everyone's really proud that we just dove in and went for it.
Mm-hmm. So great to hear. And I'm sure others have seen that show of support as well. Hannah, I'd love to pivot over to Fair Pets and what you are most proud of from the last 3 years.
Yeah, I think similar to what Christine said, we didn't necessarily know how we were going to accomplish the pledge goals, but we jumped in, early on in the pledge in 2022 because we knew that it was something that was the right thing to do, plus kind of gave us that level of motivation in order to make changes quickly. I also think that we didn't really know exactly what we didn't know. So, a lot of our packaging is HDPE jars, so rigid plastic. And in general, HDPE is a widely recyclable material. But once we started to kind of jump into the details, we realized that, yes, well, the primary packaging of the jar, absolutely recyclable. But then when you add the adhesive, the label, and the lid, things get much, much more challenging. So, we were able to identify some easy switches early on that gave us the ability to get that widely recyclable status through how to recycle on the majority of our rigid packaging. So to date, we have over 2/3 of our packaging with widely recyclable status through how to recycle. And then we have another 20%, which is our flexibles that carry the store drop-off seal. So I think I'm most proud of the fact that we were able to get such a high percentage of our portfolio to be, widely recyclable or recycle ready. I'm also really proud of kind of the community that was built amongst PSC and the Packaging Pledge. I think that it's part of why we were able to be so successful. We could not have done this just kind of with our internal team alone, but having PSC to, fall back on for questions and resources. And then also, the other brands of just to kind of like talk about challenges. I mean, I know we must have had a million conversations about the challenges around how to recycle, which is an amazing platform, but there's definitely a learning curve and a timeline curve. So to kind of be able to share in those, challenges that you're going through and build that community, I think is just unparalleled.
Yes, I'm so glad you brought up that piece. And like I said, the big part of this was collaboration in the pet industry, bringing together brands and suppliers and partners like How to Recycle to push things along. But again, also a unique opportunity to have a peer group and a support system and other brands and companies pursuing the same goal. And it's good to know that someone else is looking for or struggling with or having challenges with retort, which is a notoriously difficult one. But yes, applause all around. And Joy, lastly, I'd love to hear if you can pick just a few. I know there's a lot to be proud of too.
I think same as the Christine and Hannah. When we first signed the packaging pledge, we're like, oh God, here we go. We're on the edge of a cliff here. It's downwards. But actually, when you ask us the question and you look back at it, it's like, actually, we've climbed a mountain and we should be so proud of that. We have been able to share our packaging journey on our Impact Air report clearly so everyone can see that. And like Christina said, you know, hold your hand up if you're not meeting those milestones and give a reason why you're not, especially on the retort pouches. I think I would like to, you know, call out our board here because they've carved out some extra R&D, and we've had our very first packaging technologist. She's been with us for a year, so that's been a great boost for us. And we've also got an extra resource for just looking after the EPR tax across the globe. So that's been great as well. So we probably wouldn't have been able to do that without the packaging pledge, having those milestones. And again, I think the whole collaboration piece for us, for the first time ever in my career here at MPM, we've had 2 competitor manufacturing plants on email, on the same email, helping us to try and unpick the retortable, recyclable pouch, which is amazing. And also, you know, finally to PSC for helping us all share our pains and celebrate them at the same time. It's been amazing.
Wonderful. Well, quick round of applause for just all of that, and many more achievements to celebrate in the upcoming few years. And looking ahead with that same future lens, we have the packaging pledge ending at the end of this year. It's been 3 years. We've all accomplished a lot and have had such a good experience piloting a pledge. I'd love to hear from this group if you'd like to share of any goals or targets related to packaging beyond 2025. And feel free to talk about, you know, maybe those are all related to EPR laws or, you know, as we have this changing landscape. So, Christine, why don't we start with you?
Sure. I think we will continue to work towards getting to 100% recyclable for our kibble bags. We're sitting at just over 60% now. And unfortunately, one of the reasons that we're not further ahead on that is because of some labeling laws that came up in the US and in Canada that kind of put a whole pause on things. Again, for thinking sustainably, we didn't want to make changes, you know, switch the bags to recyclable and then have to 6 months later switch them again and have a large inventory on hand as the labeling laws got finalized. So things looks like they've settled down and we're able to kind of like turn the switch back on again. So we're going to continue now, you know, working towards that 100%. So I think by 2030, we will be there. For our kibble bags, all of our treat pouches, those are already recyclable because those actually launched during the pledge time. So I think just the other thing is that we will remain on the lookout for recyclable retort wet pouches for North America. That's really a biggie for us. But yeah, we will by 2030 we should be that really darn close to 100% for our kibble bags. So that's the largest component by far of all of our packaging. So that'll be a huge win.
Excellent. And that's having targets, having goals, having milestones is just such a key part of any sustainability strategy, no matter what challenge you're tackling, especially packaging with longer timelines, with legislation. And you mentioned recycle or labeling laws as well. Another key element for packaging challenges. Joy, I'd love to hear what's in the future state or future ahead for MPM.
So I think we will continue on the goal of trying to have all of our packaging to be designed to be recycle ready. Because obviously the laws are different by globes, and what you're trying to do is introduce a single format of packaging that works across all of those without adding more packaging to everywhere. And so where it can't be avoided, we will definitely try and get that 30% recycled content as a minimum in there, also depending on manufacturers' requirements and stuff like that. And we're also want to align our packaging with the packaging data with broader kind of sustainability framework. So looking at the CSRD, science-based targets. And then I suppose the last thing is just making sure that we do in the packaging directly with suppliers, that we're looking at the wider kind of climate and impact goals of that. So again, it's all about like the data, cleansing it, and seeing what we can do on that.
Data. It's a data strategy as well, isn't it, for packaging? And you mentioned CSRD. It's the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive out of the EU, where you focus a lot of business on. And Hannah, what is in the future, or what are we looking ahead at for Fair Pets?
Yes, we will continue towards our goal of 100% recyclable. We've got like specifically one material that has been just so challenging for us. So not without the effort, but we just haven't made it there in time for this 2025 goal, but we're going to continue to work towards that. We're also always looking at plastic reduction strategies. We've implemented the use of percentages of PCR across our rigid packaging types. That's kind of a temporary solution, I think, but the goal is really overall plastic reduction, virgin PCR and otherwise. Our team has also talked about, how we may be able to implement a small refill pilot program on our D2C website. Because I think for us, that's really like gold standard goal. It's just really, really complex logistically. So, we continue to talk about it. Like, what if we did this, or what if we did that? We're not there yet, but I would love, to be able to maybe by 2030, be able to implement a program like that, because I think that that's really where we all need to be looking at moving. And I think just like with recyclable packaging, if we as an industry or, CPG as a whole, if we're all working towards that same goal, it becomes less challenging than just one brand trying to figure it out. So those are my hopes and my dreams.
I think those are excellent to have nowadays. And the 2025 packaging pledge was extremely ambitious. And this was ultimately with the goal of making progress, which don't let perfection get in the way of progress and sustainability. We just have to keep working at it. And you mentioned PCR content, so post-consumer recycled content, and source reduction, so reducing weights and amounts of material used in packaging are both important elements of these extended producer responsibility laws as well. So a lot to think about for the next 5 years. And I'm sure maybe we'll check in again in another 3 years and see how everyone's progress is going. But with that, thank you all for sharing parts of your journey. I would love to give the audience time to share any thoughts, any questions you have in the Q&A, submit them now. We do have a few already submitted. We'll bring those up. I think a good question for this entire group, an audience member said they're curious how many of you are utilizing the support services from external agencies to help you with EPR reporting, and also with PCR compliance pieces now in New Jersey and California. They're coming from non-chemical advanced processes. How are you meeting these goals? And I think let's just start with, what resources are you utilizing, internal or external, for EPR reporting?
I can go if you'd like.
Sure.
I'm a team of one at Petcurean, but I like to say a department of many. We're not using anything external. It's me, myself, and I. And it's the EPR law is definitely a big challenge because we have to, report in throughout North America, US and Canada. And so that's many provinces throughout Canada and then the US as well. Yeah, I've stayed on top of it, definitely with support from PSC. The updates help. But it's really just a matter of digging in and attending all the webinars that are offered and got to just stay on top of it. Yeah. It's not easy.
Joy or Hannah,
Yeah, we don't use any external partners either, but we do have the benefit of a parent corporation. So, I am also a team of one, but I take all of our data that is gathered and I am able to pass it along to somebody else who submits on our behalf. So the load is a little bit less, not that there is no load, but a little bit less, I think, for us. We have attended all of the Repurpose Global webinars. So I know if there are people who are looking for a third party that is really helpful, if we weren't working with our parent organization, I would definitely be working with Repurpose Global because they seem to have it like very dialed in, especially if you're already working with them on plastic recovery efforts. It seems to be a really seamless process. So that would be my shameless plug for the folks over at Repurpose.
Yes.
And I suppose from our point of view, being based in Europe and distributing across maybe 50 plus countries, there's a number of countries, obviously, that are a number of regulations that we have to comply with in the UK. And so we've got a third party there called EcoSurety, but they can also help with international compliances. And when you look at some of the countries, you have to use their governing body. So again, depending on where you're paying those EPR taxes on, and that's the reason why we bought the support in this year. And give that job to a dedicated person within MPM. But also a good shout out for PSC is that part of this collaboration piece was that we built that great, incredible EPR tracking tool that we all contribute to, and that gets updated twice a year. So again, a plug for PSC. If you guys are not a member, it's a great resource for you guys to kind of track on that. But also there's other companies like Ashbury Labels, that can, and Ecosystems, I think they're called, where you can pay them maybe €900 and they'll do a whole market research on for you. You can give them 3 or 4 year labels and they'll come back and tell you where you need to be compliant and what you need to do and how you need to make your submission. So I'm sure PSC can share some resources.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you all. And that is perfect timing because it's called the packaging legislation tool. It is a tracker available in our toolkit and it is updated for October 2025. So it does get updated every 6 months and there's a lot happening right now with legislation and keeping track of it all. Let's see, I do have a specific question for Christine and perhaps anyone in this group. Did you consider any alternatives or packaging formats from retort? Were there any paper options or metal or?
I guess I should have maybe been a little bit more specific. It's not for all of our wet food because our existing wet food was already in Tetra Paks. We made that switch a long time ago. This was a new single serve pouch that we introduced. Paper doesn't really work, I think, just because the barrier properties are not there. But I think one of the challenges with retort, and I know Joy had faced this challenge as well, is that you might find something that maybe works for North America, but it doesn't have a long enough shelf life for international. We did see some products out there that had like would provide like a 12-month shelf life, but because we ship to almost 40 countries around the world, we needed to have a retort pouch that gives like a minimum of like 18 months shelf life. And so that's where some of the challenge came. So we weren't looking at, because this was a single serve, the format didn't lend itself to doing Tetra because the Tetras would be like, this big, same with cans. And so it came down to balancing the needs of the business versus, you know, the recyclability. And unfortunately, this was just one of those things that we just kind of had to go ahead with. Even though it, you know, didn't quite hit all, you know, like Joy said, there's so many things, check boxes that have to be checked. And this just wasn't, we didn't find any way around it. We looked high and low and considered different options, but we couldn't find anything that would give us the size that we needed and the shelf life that we needed for shipping internationally, unfortunately, at this time.
I think it all comes down to like three levers that you have to carefully balance, and it's about product safety, the cost, and essentially it's the value chain requirements. So we know a lot of retailers won't take anything under 12 months. And so straight away, the minute you place that order, you're eating into that timeline. And so it's about finding something that works for all of those purposes and not just switching to a recyclable pouch because it looks good.
Yeah.
So that's what we found.
Certainly trade-offs for all different types of material and what's readily available added to the list of challenges.
I feel like I can definitely say that
packaging.
throughout these last couple of years, I'm grateful we don't have any products that use retort. Because I've heard so many
mean, Hannah.
conversations about it, and I cannot empathize with it, but I do. I understand those types of challenges.
Yes, certainly. And I think we've answered most of the questions in Q&A. There are some more technical packaging questions, and we'll let some other folks chime in for those questions, or we'll follow up separately. But I would also love to give everyone on this panel another minute for any final statements or words of wisdom to other companies working on their sustainable packaging portfolios, whether that's recyclable, whether it's incorporating PCR content, whether it's making goals. Would love if all of us would, if you would all leave us with a few final words.
I can go first. I think if there are companies out there who are thinking about, you know, starting to make a switch, but they haven't started yet and they're not sure how to do it, I would say just make that internal commitment and just go for it. You know, we were one of the original signatories of the packaging pledge, and I can tell you, making a public pledge when you don't have a bulletproof plan of how you are going to get there, it was a super scary thing, but really it was the sheer passion of our team to do better and be better for our planet that really outweighed all of the uncertainties. And we really felt like it really demonstrated our commitment to our pets and to our people and of course to our planet. And that's why we went for it. So yeah, don't worry about not having a clear roadmap. Nobody's got a crystal ball. We don't know how EPR laws are going to evolve. We just know they are going to. I would say just go for it and dive right in, and don't be afraid to make mistakes along the way, and just be transparent about your progress. And we had no problem telling people we're challenging, you know, we're struggling with this, we've got challenges with that, we're getting held up because of this. People understand. And at the end of the day, I think your consumers just really appreciate the fact that you are making steps forward to do better and be better.
Wonderful statement. Joy
I
or
was saying
Hannah?
with Christina, you know, in terms of packaging transformation, it's not just about recyclability. It's about those three levers that we just talked about in terms of the safety, the cost, the value chain. And it's only really once you kind of get your grips on those and secure effectively your management of the global EPR once you review that. I think the packaging pledge has definitely pushed us to cleanse the data, start building that framework, however it looks or ugly it looks, invest in the resource and create a true cross collaboration with all your departments. I think that's really important. And I think the new partnerships that we've built has definitely helped us along the way, and hopefully it'll carry us over the line of 2030.
Yeah, you know, Joy spoke to collaboration, and I think It's one of the major themes from, this talk, but also, our experience over the last 3 years. It takes a collaborative environment internally because it does, packaging touches almost every single part of the business. But also, working with external suppliers who are really on this journey with you, and are willing to do the hard things that it takes in order to get, an innovative, sustainable packaging to market. Suppliers, contract manufacturers, but then people like PSC, we are a very small team, our sustainability team is very small, but our entire team is very small. And so we really need those external partners as well that are able to help us make really informed science-based decisions. And that, hey, we're looking at this type of packaging, like, of course, a salesperson or a supplier is going to make things look really good on paper, but you need to verify that, if you're going to be using a material, you need to be able to verify that that truly is, the right material, is designed for recyclability, and that you're making those informed choices before you bring something to market.
Yes. All wise words, all excellent insights and advice. And I would like to give not just these three, but all of our signatories just a quick round of applause for all the work that's been done over the last 3 years and everyone who's had a hand in it. We're really excited to wrap up this last quarter and maybe have a little official celebration. And thank you all for joining us today. I always learn so much from this group, and appreciate our audience for joining us as well. So thank you all. Have a great rest of the week. And for more information, you can visit the PSC website or reach out to us via email.
Bye,
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you
Bye.
all.